When Melania Trump threatened to murder her husband Donald on live television in mid-January 2020 if I wouldn't mail her my pubes, my men and I got together to come up with a plan to defeat her and take her out. Brent instructed me to make a video faking that I sent Melania the pubes she requested, and I did this. I actually mailed a letter to the White House, but it did not have my pubes in it. My men told me to make the video to give them time to reprogram the satellites to enable them to enter the White House undetected. You see, Melania Trump had things set up so that only strangers who were retards could enter the White House. And her scanners, her scanners were set up to scan to ensure that only retards could enter the White House, unless, of course, they were her trusted Secret Service, scientists, or Donald Trump. And because of this, my men were not able to penetrate the White House until they could reprogram her very deadly satellites to enable them to enter the White House undetected. These satellites were programmed to kill my men by targeting their vagina butts, and if any of my men attempted to reprogram any of these satellites, the other satellites still in existence for the other men would destroy all the vagina butts, including my vagina, and in the process, both my men and I would die. And this was how Melania had the satellites programmed. So if one satellite was messed with, the other satellites for the other men would execute the one tampering with the satellite by destroying all vagina butts in the world, thus killing all the men on my marriage list, as well as destroying every single man with a vagina butt, and would destroy me too, by targeting my vagina. Even the men who defected from us, the Gales men going their own way because they have vagina butts, they too would have been destroyed. So we had to plan for all the men on my marriage list to reprogram every single satellite. See, there was like one satellite for each man on my marriage list, programmed to kill them if they did anything Melania didn't like. So we had to plan for all the men on my marriage list to reprogram all the satellites at exactly the same time. And we needed to distract Melania so that we could do this, so that there would be no satellites in existence using Melania's deadly programming against us. You see, Melania had satellites for each man on my marriage list, and they were programmed to kill all men with vagina butts if any of these satellites was messed with. So my men came up with a dangerous but courageous plan to reprogram the satellites all at the same time. The timing had to be perfect on this or we'd all be dead, so that they could enter the White House undetected and rescue Donald Trump. Using reverse engineering, our nanotechnology research team had the programming for Melania's deadly satellites and were able to create a new program for the satellites that would enable my men to enter the White House undetected. The plan was that they would all reprogram the satellites at the same time with this new programming, but they needed to distract Melania and her Secret Service to accomplish this, to buy them some time. So they asked me to make a video faking that I mailed Melania the pubes she wanted. Now they had Melania distracted. And that video that I made where I was faking giving her the pubes gave time for every man on my marriage list to travel to these deadly satellites using invisibility shields and to reprogram all of the satellites for each of the men on my marriage list. And they programmed every single satellite for each of the men on my marriage list and reprogrammed it at the same time. They had to. And that way they could do this without any satellite killing them as they did this. The new programming would cause all the satellites formerly programmed to target my men's vagina butts to now target Melania's vagina, so that if she used the satellites to kill my men as they were originally programmed, instead, her vagina would be hit from all the satellites and she'd die. My men succeeded in reprogramming the satellites. We accomplished that mission that were formerly programmed to target their vagina butts and kill them if they messed with the satellites. The new programming also made the White House's security scanners inaccurate. And now, even though my men have genius intelligence, they were able to get inside the White House to rescue Donald from Melania because because the White House scanners were inaccurate now. They'd been reprogrammed by my men. With the reprogramming that they put into Melania's deadly satellites. Previously, only retards could enter the White House, especially the deep section underneath where Melania and her scientists slaved around the clock to find the secret to my eternal beauty, so that Melania could compete with me and get the title Sexiest Woman Alive. Melania would consult her crazy mirror, and it would tell her that I was the sexiest woman alive, and she'd go into a rage, a jealous rage. So my men got into the White House and they found Donald Trump. They said, "Good news, we found him." But Melania wasn't there. She had traveled to Florida, where she was sunbathing naked on the beach every day after she had shaved her pubes in preparation for the pupae she was expecting from my pubes. She wanted to tan her pubic area in the sun and walk down a runway wearing my pupae. The problem was that though my men got into Melania's vast underground underneath the White House and found Donald Trump, they were far outnumbered. So Donald Trump came up with a plan. He held a rally and started cheering for me and raving about my beauty and how kind and beautiful I was and how Melania abused everybody. And they ended up all siding with me and decided to play like nothing happened at the White House to Melania, who was down in Florida, and that they were still loyal to Melania. Melania contacted them and they said that they got my pubes and were working on making the pube pay for her. So Melania stayed down in Florida, tanning her shaved pubic area in the sun in preparation for my pube pay. And any public appearances that you've seen of Melania at the White House this week, that's been a Melania Trump automaton. The real Melania has been sunbathing naked on the beach in Florida, waiting for her pube pay this week. So while Melania stayed down in Florida salivating about getting my pubes, she sent an order to the Secret Service at the White House about a week ago, and they are now loyal to me instead of Melania, and requested they come to my door to arrest me and execute me. Loyal to me now instead of her, they lied to her and said they would do it. Melania gave the order to the Secret Service at the White House and to have them come to my door, arrest me, and execute me, and they lied to her and said they'd do it. That day, my men told me to make a video and fake like there was Secret Service at my door to create another distraction for Melania. My men's new plan was to have Brent disguised as one of the scientists who would deliver the pupae, to fake that he was delivering her pubes to her, and then to shoot her in the head while delivering her pupae. They instructed me that after I made that video faking that the Secret Service was at my door to play dead and stop all communications online. So for a week, that's what I did. But because I go outside to check the mail, do my walks, etc., my men set up an encryption using programming we got from the Gale Android in 2012 that programs the brains and causes people to see me outside and not recognize me or forget who I was, in order to fool Melania into thinking her Secret Service murdered me about a week ago. Today, around 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Melania requested her pube pay, thinking I was dead and that it was now time for her to reign supreme as sexual goddess, since her #1 competition, myself, had been eliminated. Brent, disguised as a scientist around noon today, walked out onto the beach where Melania tanned herself in preparation for the pupae, which was actually made from Vladimir Putin's body hair, because that's the closest match to my pubes. Brent, dressed as a scientist, hid a fully automatic AR-15 in the fake pupae. Melania's guards patted Brent down for weapons as she lay naked on a beach towel nearby. Apparently, they didn't check the pubegate because they feared it because of my powerful King David genetic profile, which is especially concentrated in my pubes. They let Brent walk right up to Melania. Show me de pubes. Show me my beautiful pubegate, Melania said. Brent, he reached into the fake pubegate and quickly pulled out the AR-15 and pointed it against her head. All of Melania's Secret Service now pointed their guns at Brent. Brent, looking calm and stern, looked at Melania. I'll give you to the count of pube. He pulled the trigger and shot her in the head, then with coldness said, pube. Then he turned to Melania's agents and they all ran. Brent tossed the fake pubegate onto her naked, dead vagina. At 2:23 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, United States, Brent beamed back aboard Church of Gale, and my men also brought Melania's body with them to ensure the Jesuits can't bring her back. And now I want to address some of the comments that I was getting underneath my video. Some people were saying that I can't take care of myself, that I have no money, that I'm not taking Seroquel. These are lies. And they say that my family member, somebody named Daniel Schuler, never heard of him. I never knew I had a family member named Daniel Schuler. And they were saying my family members posted a bunch of the same misinformation about me. They admitted that my sister Sandra called the police on me, and the police told her that they can't take me away based on my beliefs, that I am free to believe what I want. And, I and my men, we follow Jesus Christ's Gale commandments, and because of my men's support, I'm out of debt. And, we do the Gale commandments. It's a Gale commandment to take Seroquel. I set my alarm every day. And I take my Seroquel every day. It's very important because I need it to battle yeast. And I do all the Gale commandments. So they're lying. Because of my men's support, I'm out of debt. I'm able to save $100 a month. And it's safe for me to exercise outside every day. I eat healthy and I'm independent and safe. My family members previously called my old employer at Walmart and they got me fired in order to make me lose my money and become dependent on them. And they have lied to try to get me locked up because of what I believe. Just because I believe in Brent Spiner, that I believe that he called me on the phone in the 1990s and that I believe he loves me and would die for me. And my men have encouraged me to visit my family in the past and to have faith in them, but they treated me like crap. My mom would verbally abuse me and demand that I come over and clean up her house all the time. She said I owed her that. And when I would go over there to clean, it was never good enough. She was never happy with anything I did, and nothing I did was right. And they have been malicious dickheads towards me. They've tried to punish me for living the way I want. And, I'm happy living with what I believe. I believe that the real Brent Spiner is in love with me, that he is my soulmate, that I'm going to have a millennial marriage to him, and that he's my husband. This is what I believe. And I'm doing well taking care of myself. And all of these people who are lying about me, including my sister, they either can accept me for who I am or they can go F themselves. I not only take care of myself very well, but my family wants me to be dependent on them so that they can lord it over me and lock me up. My men we have learned that My mother is a narcissist, and my sister, I believe, is a sociopath. And I've been abused my whole life. And it wasn't until Brent Spiner came into my life that was like seeing light at the end of a dark tunnel that I realized that there was somebody in my life who loved me for who I am, and that I didn't need to change myself into some perfect woman to make him happy. And that's why I have devoted my life to Brent and to my men. And then once Brent came in my life, other men noticed me because he noticed me first. Um, these people are just lying about me. They're jealous and they can't accept me for who I am. And, I'm a grown woman. I'm allowed to believe whatever I want. I take care of myself very well, but my family wants me to be dependent on them, like I said. And if they could just accept me for who I am and stop being such Jesuits, I am loving enough to forgive every single Jesuit out there, just like I forgave Zach Knight in Rule 13. I'm loving enough to forgive them, but I will not allow you to mistreat me and treat me badly. I am not going to be gaslighted by you all. And my mother once told me, she said, nobody likes you. Everybody hates you. Remember that. That's what she told me. She left that voicemail on my phone. This is the kind of compassion that I get from my family. They're never happy unless I think I'm garbage. That's the only thing that will make them happy. If I ingratiate myself to them and believe that I'm a piece of crap, then my mother's happy. They're very rude and condescending to me, and they're only happy if I kiss their feet and let them run my life and let them tell me what I must believe. I believe my mother is a narcissist, and I believe my sister is a sociopath. Like I said, I've been abused my whole life, and I was never able to, I actually got into a codependent cycle, and I was never able to get out of that until Brent Spiner came into my life in 1991. And I realized then that, Jesus calls me awesome. Like I said, I'm a very forgiving person. I could forgive every single person out there if you would just quit being a dickhead, a Jesuit dickhead. I deserve a husband. I deserved a husband that would support me. My ex, when I delivered my baby and I thought I had postpartum depression, he thought I was demon possessed. And he treated me like that for having postpartum depression after I delivered my baby. All I can say is thank God for Brent. What's really ironic is when I wrote Brent letters in the 1990s, I expected him to be like the whole world, and my family had treated me like I was inferior, garbage, crap. That's how I was raised. And I admitted to him that I thought I had manic depression at the time and that I was on psychiatric meds. And I said that on purpose because I was married and a strong Christian, and I didn't want him to get romantically attracted to me. But I guess because he's an INFJ and I'm an INFP, he being the perceptive INFJ that he was, that's Myers-Briggs personality profile. He actually took a test. He's an INFJ. I'm an INFP. He realized that he saw the inner beauty in my soul and he fell in love with me. And my honesty and transparency with him, and the music album that I sent him of my singing, where I bared my soul in my singing, he fell in love with me. And I realized then it was like seeing light at the end of a dark tunnel. I thought, wow, there's somebody who loves me just for who I am. That everything my mother said to me growing up is not true. That there's somebody out there who thinks I'm awesome. He's felt that way ever since 1991. He's never, ever changed. And you know what? Most of you people out there, you can't even touch Brent Spiner's foot. You can't even touch him. He's such a beautiful person. And it's just really sad that you all are just sorry Jesuits. All I can say is I am who I am. And if you don't like what I believe, that I believe Brent would die for me, that I believe I have a band of famous men who love me, which is just as amazing to me as it may be to some of you, but it's true nevertheless. If you don't like it, you can go F yourselves. If you can't love me for who I am, I deserve for somebody to love me unconditionally, and I have that. Like I said, and when Brent made that music album for me, Old Yellow Eyes is Back, I knew then that all the horrible things my mother said about me was not true. That somebody out there loved me and adored me just for who I was. He has changed me irrevocably. I refuse to go back to being the way I was, to believing that I'm garbage and that I could never be good enough for a man to love me. Brent has shown me that I don't need to change myself to be loved. That, yes, even a world famous celebrity named Brent Spiner could fall in love with the woman who was told all her life by her mother that she's garbage and a piece of crap, a selfish, good for nothing girl, and that everybody hates me. Like I said, I now know that isn't true. And if you don't like it that I think that I believe what I believe, you can go F yourselves. Okay? Goodbye.